Needham has considered the implementation of a quiet zone for years, with various discussions and setbacks along the way. Now, last year, the Select Board withdrew a quiet zone proposal from the town meeting warrant at the last minute due to outdated cost information. Now, subsequently, the Quiet Zone Working Group was formed to devise viable strategies. They are now presenting a new plan, beginning with a funding request set for the annual town meeting next month. Here's municipal producer Yushao Yuan with the details.
In a sense, the train is a symbolic presence in Needham, roaring through the town with its horn blaring. However, until recent years, the noise wasn't considered unbearable by most residents, according to Marion Cooley, who has been serving on the select board for 11 years.
Lots of people grew up with the horns. The horns didn't really bother them.
In 2015, the select board conducted a cost analysis, but ultimately chose not to pursue the matter further.
The sense from people in town was they didn't want to spend the money.
However, the situation changed during the pandemic.
Everybody was at home and they heard them all day long.
Meanwhile, the MBTA adjusted its schedule, with trains now operating through Needham from 5 a.m. until after midnight.
So for the people who are right on the tracks, you have about 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep a day.
Additionally, Sunday service was introduced, along with extra trips in the fall for leaf cleanup.
And you'll hear 2 more sets of whistles at 2:30 and 3 in the morning because they're sweeping the tracks of leaves.
Cooley acknowledges the growing desire among residents to mute the train horns. This time after a year-long study, assisted by the town-hired consulting company GPI, a clearer vision of what a quiet zone could entail in Needham has emerged, despite the challenges posed by the potential redesign of Great Plain Avenue.
Part of what we've learned was originally we understood that we couldn't have a quiet zone unless everything was a quiet zone. And that's actually not true. It was an important learning for us to figure that out because it lets us say, okay, we don't have to do everything. We can in fact significantly reduce the number of horns that get blown in town by doing a partial or by breaking this project into pieces. Again, it might make it more affordable to the town.
With this in mind, Needham could initially apply for 2 partial quiet zones, one from West to May Street and another at Oak Street. Once the Great Plain Avenue renovation is finalized, that crossing could be incorporated into a broader quiet zone.
As many people know, the town is having a discussion about what the streetscape should look like in the center of downtown and how we might rethink that so that it can be more pedestrian mobility friendly. Because we're doing that, we may make changes to the width of the street at Great Plain Avenue, and we don't know what those changes are yet. We may not be ready to go forward quite yet with that one, but that wouldn't stop us from starting with some other parts.
The Quiet Zone Working Group has also gained a general understanding of the safety measures required at each crossing to eliminate the whistling mandated by the Federal Railroad Administration.
We know that we have to install a constant warning time device at all the locations except Rosemary because they don't have that infrastructure. There are 2 main measures that we can take at each intersection. Implementing a quad gate, which is 4 gates. Right now you'll see in our intersections we only have 2. And the intent behind that is you can't weave between them in order to bypass our current safety measures. And then the second safety measure you can implement is a median that you install along the right-of-way, which would again prevent a car from being able to cross the railroad tracks and weave in between the intersections. Installing a median is much less expensive than installing a quad gate because you have to replace all of the infrastructure that's there for the signal. So we want to make sure that that's the correct implementation in each location. Right now, I think we have 3 of the intersections that we were anticipating because of their location would be quad gates, and 2 of the intersections, Great Plain Ave and Rosemary, that we can do with a median.
What we've committed here is that every intersection we have, if the train horns are eliminated, will be safer than it was before.
To proceed, the Select Board has endorsed the working group's recommendation for a $750,000 funding request at town meeting. This funding will cover a diagnostic review by the MBTA, the design for each intersection, and an estimate for the construction cost. The possibility of phasing the project will be determined during the design process. action regarding the town's 6th railroad crossing at the Needham Golf Club will be deferred because it is located on private property. Federal regulations prohibit a quiet zone from beginning or ending at a private crossing.
And I think a lot of it just had to do with the type of crossing. So it's people in a golf cart, it's people walking, maybe not as paying as much attention as you might be when you're in the right of way.
The only viable solution is to convert it into a grade-separated crossing that won't disrupt pedestrians or motor vehicles.
Which either means you go above the train or you go underneath the train. So building a culvert or a bridge on the golf course property is much more complicated than putting in some signals.
It's going to take some creative looking, we think, at how it might be laid out, how it might be organized, what the golf courts can do with their maintenance equipment, how they can think about structuring that so that we can make it work.
The preliminary construction cost estimated by GPI for establishing quiet zones at the 5 public crossings is about $3.5 million. The annual town meeting is scheduled for May 6th and 13th. For Needham Channel News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.